Hi, I'm Jeff Bermudez.
And I'm Omar Kadri.
Welcome to The Collective Journey.
Join us as we explore some of the most promising talents, thought leaders, and change influencers in our city and beyond.
As we uncover these hidden gems, I hope you'll find that they're people just like you and I, with hopes and dreams and gifts that they would like to show to the world.
It is our mission to share their work, to share their story, and to appreciate what our community is capable of producing.
This is my adventure.
This is your adventure.
This is our collective journey. Welcome to another episode of The Collective Journey. Last time, we were joined by our West Coast friend, Roque Argueta. We got to learn a little bit about what life out west was like and how he came about running his very own business venture. To build upon that, we dive deeper into what it means to run a business. We also get to learn more about his unique background. So join us once more as we continue our journey with Roque.
Do you have any hobbies or any practices that you do? And out of any of those, have you ever thought about turning it into a business? For example, let's say art or music or film, anything like that.
Any talents? I'm learning to play the ukulele right now, but I'm not too good to be a pro yet. I used to play the piano, but man, I haven't played a piano in ages, so I don't even know how good I would be at that.
Why ukulele specifically?
I want to learn to play the guitar, and this guy had a ukulele he was getting rid of. It was super cheap, so I was like, oh, whatever, I'll start with that and kind of work my way up. I know they're not the same, but I thought hey, maybe if I just have something in my hand, get a feel for it, maybe this will kind of give me the push to put me in the right direction. So I've been doing that, and then a couple roommates that I was living with, and they play guitars, so we would jam away in the summertime, have a little fire going. So I was like, all right, maybe I can pursue this a little more. So
I guess to refine his question was do you have any passions or any interests that you'd like to turn into a business, not so much art or music? So is there a technology out there that you have your eye on? Or if you like sports, is there a way that you wanted to incorporate that into some way that you can make money?
I think for me, I want to be able to help people, right? I don't have it quite down with what exactly. I'm playing with a lot of different things, and I'm talking to some people to see hey, can we put this into a plan? Can this be viable? That kind of stuff. But for me, the main thing is I want to be able to help people, right? I think, obviously everyone can use a hand sometime. And I don't think it matters where you are. I think there's always going to be people that need help in some sort of way. I think, with, I guess some of the things that I'm working with, I want to be able to either work with youth to help them either marginalized youth, maybe using sports to do that. Basketball is probably one of my favorite sports. It's probably one of the sports that I'm most skilled at, but either through that or soccer, maybe even having something where maybe very similar to Big Brothers, where you could work with young men and hopefully turning them into strong gentlemen, right? And by teaching them different life skills. So you have different coaches for different things, whether it's finance, maybe how to play sports, or maybe even just how to start a fire. I think that'd be super crucial to hey, learn how to start a fire. If for some reason the power goes and you need to create heat, right? You got to know how to make a fire, or how to go fishing, right? You never know if this world goes down. You got to start hunting for your food or fishing, just different stuff like that, right? Things that are going to be essential, or that you most likely will have to use sometime in your life, right?
Is there anything post your business that you've learned in any job after your business or your current job, or anything that you've learned from being in London that you think you can apply to these ideas that you just spoke of?
I think one of the biggest things, and this is probably something that came to me when I was like, hiring people, was the amount of how do I put this? The amount of people that don't have confidence in themselves. I remember like I would hire some people, and then after, working with them for a couple months, I really get to know them, and just talking to them, and it's just like the amount of, I guess, how would I put that? Like they don't have the confidence in themselves, and I can't go for this job, or I can't apply for this. And it's like, if you never tried, how would you ever know, right? Like I think a lot of people doubt themselves too much, when I think like we all have a different skill that we can contribute to society in some way, right? Like we all have a gift that we can provide, and obviously maybe we just don't know what it is quite yet, but like, man, you should always have confidence in yourself. You should know that you have the ability to do anything and get through anything if you put your mind to it. I don't know if that really answers your question, but that was just one of the things that really like wow, like you seem like a very well put together person, and you definitely have credentials, and you have the academic background, but like why is this confidence lacking?
I personally feel like media has a lot to do with it. Like I feel like with so much information about how things ought to be, like it's there's so much information around that people get confused, and they start thinking about like things that they're told to want, as opposed to things that they actually want. And because they kind of like believe in these agreements as opposed to the ones they form themselves, it kind of like underdevelops them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with like social media, is like it creates a lot of followers.
Mm-hmm.
And by followers, I mean like people that will follow things or jump on trends, instead of like having their own voice or their own kind of identity.
Or like
right?
creating their own trend.
Well, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone's like, well, this person did it, so maybe I should do this too, because they're getting likes or they're getting views. Like, why does it have to be that way? I think it was with you, Jeff, we were talking about this, like, this is kind of going off topic, but like with music, right? Like to me, the way I hear like hip hop and rap right now is like all kind of the same tune.
Yeah.
They all kind of rap the same way. Whereas like when I was coming in, like, I'm like a huge like hip hop rap head, whatever you want to call it. There was like the pillars of hip hop, right? Like you actually had to like flow, like, you actually, had to know how to put, music together, like how to make something really creative, like tell a story. It wasn't just like.
I think I've showed you some tunes to show you that today's music is heading in the right way still. There's a lot of good people out there still. I
think there's kind of like a tide starting.
Yeah.
Just with like some of the new music that I've been listening to. But I think, I mean, obviously it has to change, right? Like I think there has to be some sort of creativity. There has to be something that makes you stand apart. Like all these like little Uzis and little Kurts, like they're all kind of the same, right?
Yeah.
But like if you put, let's say, J. Cole in the mix, and then you have like Kendrick Lamar, they have two totally different sounds, right? And they're still able to be successful in their own way, and they have their own followers and that kind of stuff, right? So like everyone can have their own unique thing. They could, you just got to think a little more. You got to create something for yourself.
Well, we talked about this with our previous guest, It's not that there isn't good music anymore. It's just the ones that get brought to the surface are like very bland, and it's scalable, It's catchy enough that a wide variety of people can like it, but they're all there. You just got to find them. They're all there. I think in terms of music, there's just so much quantity right now, and that you'll see a lot of the bad, but there's a lot of the good that doesn't get brought up.
And that's the thing too, also I think with social media, because like now it's a lot easier to get found.
Yeah. Right.
And for people to hear your sound or whatever it is, you're doing. Whereas before, like you had to grind, like you had to go to like clubs and like promote yourself and like sell your CDs on the corner and that kind of stuff, where like now it's like you can go on, SoundCloud or YouTube or whatever, and promote yourself that way, where you're gonna get views, or people might come by your page, or that kind of stuff, right?
At the same time, there's a lot of competition. That's why you can be so good and remain undiscovered for so long.
Yeah, I could see that.
You mentioned your experience with hiring people. What was it like hiring somebody for the first time?
For me, like the actual like recruitment part, I actually loved, because I loved being able to I guess, choose the people that I wanted to work with, and like, being able to say like, oh, I'm gonna bring you on, and like, oh, I can't wait for you start your first day or whatever, like really trying to create that excitement for them. But yeah, I mean, I think the best part was just like being able to like talk to people. Man, there's like, people are, they're going through a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's funny because some people will be very reserved, where they're like, oh, this is, I went to school here and this is what I do and this is my background. I have great references. So that's great. And then there's people that will be like very honest, who'll be like, look, I haven't been working for 5 years because of this. And like, you're hearing these like stories about like, they got injured at work, or they got some other injury and they can't work, and or maybe, personal things that have happened with them and their families and stuff like that. So it's just like, it's so weird how like, there's people that are willing to be open and people that not so much.
Mm-hmm.
And then being able to like ask questions to be able to filter those people out. But yeah, just like the biggest thing, like being able to like get to know people, highlighting their skills, or maybe even skills that they didn't really see that they had. And then being able to like recruit those people, and then like work with them, get to know them, and then like kind of build a relationship. I thought that was like pretty cool.
Have you ever had to fire anybody?
Yes.
What was that like? Like, that must be like difficult, I imagine. But how did you go about it?
The process. I guess. For me, I guess for the type of business that I was doing, it was really easy, because I was hiring them on as independent contractors.
Mm-hmm.
So they would only get a contract, and then depending on, how they performed and how they went on, like maybe we can work with them to develop them. But I think the biggest thing, if you highlight, hey, this is kind of like what you do really good, this is obviously areas where I feel like maybe you should try to work on for your next job or whatever it is. Like I guess there's no really easy way to let somebody go, but it's like any business. You got to be able to know when to cut your ties, right? Like you can't keep people afloat forever.
Would you ever like hang out with your employees outside of work, or build like relationships with them in that sense?
There was certain people that I definitely like build a relationship with, where I was like, okay, I think we're gonna be friends, with whatever happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you're in a position where, like, I guess you're a leader or manager, whatever it is, you got to have those fine lines, right? You got to have that professional relationship, but then you also want to have that good rapport with them, because then obviously if they like you, they're going to work hard, they're going to work harder for you, stuff like that. But I guess, yeah, I don't know, being able to balance that fine line, right? Like it's always tough, because like you want them to like you, because obviously they're going to work hard for you, but at the same time you still have to keep that professional image, right? Because at the end of the day, if you have to let someone go, that's part of the business. You have to let someone go, right? So,
Roque Argueta, that's a Spanish name. Can you talk to us a little bit about your background?
My background. So, my family is from El Salvador. They were both my parents were born in El Salvador. Most of my family was probably born in El Salvador. A lot of people ask me, like, what does your name mean? And there's no real meaning to the name. I guess the only meaning, like, as to why I was named Roque. So both of my parents actually were rebels. So they fought in a civil war in El Salvador, which was like in the 70s, 80s. And they were, I guess, big rebels, trying to overthrow the government at that time, because of whatever was going on there. And so there was a famous poet in El Salvador. His name was Roque Dalton. You can Wikipedia him. He's got a pretty interesting story. But anyway, so he was doing a lot of poetry about like, the stuff that was going on, and about like love and like, love over war and all this kind of stuff. So he became like a very inspirational figure, and he ended up getting killed. There's a lot of debate on like who killed him, whether it was the government, whether it was his own people, whatever. But anyways, he became kind of an inspirational figure. So my first name came after that. And then I don't know if you guys ever followed the Cuban Revolution. There was a fellow by the name of Ernesto Che Guevara.
Yep.
So funny thing was I just found out about this like when I was in Vancouver over the summer. Is my dad actually, when he joined the rebel group in El Salvador, he actually got shipped to Cuba to get trained by the Cuban military to be able to like strategize and like how to be able to like fight against a government that was like powered and backed by the Americans. So so then my middle name is Ernesto, so I was named after Ernesto Che Guevara, and then I just took on my parents' last name. So
Can I ask how that rebellion went? How did it end?
it ended with a lot of people dying. So
Okay.
it's it's a very dark history, and the funny thing is like that whole war was supposed to be a war for change.
Yeah.
And if you look at the country now, it's just as bad as it was. Like obviously they're dealing with different things, but it's just as bad.
Well, having mentioned both of your parents being part of that and being in physical confrontation, did your parents at all raise you in a way that was disciplinarian or regimented or strict at all, or did they take a different approach?
I think I think they were definitely disciplined, and I think that was because they were trying to protect me.
Yeah.
Like coming, I guess, if I look back at, when they were in that war, like let's say 15 years old, like what were you doing when you were 15? Like I know what I was doing when I was 15, and I'm like, man, I can't even believe that that's what you were dealing with and that's what you were going through. So maybe at the time, like, yes, I saw it as punishment, but like looking back now, like I feel like that was their way of protecting me, of like, hey, we escaped this war, like we fought in this war and we escaped this war to bring you to a country where you can have a better opportunity, you can have a better life. And I'm definitely very thankful for everything that I guess how they raised me, and the morals and the values and all the punishments, whatever. I'm definitely like very happy that that's how I was raised, because I feel like I would be a completely different person if I wasn't. So yeah, and my parents were also like very religious, so I think that also played a part in keeping me very like I don't know, reserved, or very how would you call it,
Like devoted?
I wouldn't say devoted,
No.
but like I don't know, like respectful and
Oh,
like,
okay.
like,
Reverent.
just or like humbled, I guess.
Okay. Well,
You know.
I guess they saw the value of you not taking the opportunities here for granted, because they had seen the horrors of bloodshed and poverty and just overall corruption and no hope for change, and now you have it. And they don't want you to become soft. They don't want you to forget what they fought for.
Obviously, like Che Guevara is a very controversial figure.
Yeah.
Do you take pride in like being named after him?
I think I definitely have a certain respect.
Yeah.
For I guess what they were fighting for. Like it'd be hard to say, because like if you're not there like living it, it's hard to say. Like people can say, well, like, hey, they're suppressing the people, but yet in their minds they're helping people, right? They're also trying to free people. So like, there's obviously arguments to both sides, but like to me, I always have a certain respect to like the fact of like what they were trying to do. Obviously whether it was perfect or not, like to me it was just like what I guess their view, I guess, on what they were trying to do. I definitely have a certain respect for that. And I've actually been to Cuba a few times. Like, I love it there. Like, the people are amazing. The culture is awesome. And I guess maybe because of that connection too, I always, I definitely have a love for the Cuban people and the country. So.
And El Salvador is in Central America, right? It's not in the continent itself, South America?
No, it's in Central America.
It's in Central,
basically south of Mexico, Guatemala. It's a small country. You can actually drive from one end to the other end of the country in 6 hours.
Wow.
That's how tiny it is.
Wow.
Yeah. And then if you go like the other way, like the width, it's like maybe like 4 hours.
Wow.
So it's not a very big country.
Well, I'd be remiss if, all these Latin countries, if you don't mention the food. What are some of the best, what are some of your favorite foods from El Salvador?
So, okay, wait, Jeff, have you had any Salvadoran food?
I've had maybe popos.
The one thing El Salvador's known for is their pupusas.
Ooh.
So pupusas are like, they're made with like corn flour, and then they're like stuffed with like meat. You can get it with like pork, chicken, beef, and then usually like refried beans and like cheese. And then they're like closed up, and then you grill them on both sides, and then you serve them really hot, and then you serve it with like a side of like this like cabbage kind of salad, and then like this spicy tomato sauce. It's funny as a kid, like with my cousins and stuff, we used to have competitions of like how many we can eat, and like I could demolish like 10, 12, no problem. Oof. And like now I'm like 4 or 5, I'm getting like, whoo, all right, like getting really full here.
Well, that's always the start of my Sunfest. That's the thing I always go
Pupusas?
for. The only thing stopping me from eating 10 of those things is the price.
Yeah. So the trick is, so if you're at Sunfest or any of these festivals,
yeah,
you go at the end.
I know.
Because then they're trying to get rid of all the food, and then they give you the specials.
Yeah. My friend and I used to do that every year. We'd go and we'd haggle with people. And we're like, all right, well, $5, what can I get for $5? What are you guys trying to get rid of?
Yeah. So I live like close to downtown. So like what I would do is like I'd go check everything out, the music and stuff, go back home, come back like at night because I know they're going to be closing, and then just get all this like food for cheap.
Oh, do you guys have arepas?
No, that's
Venezuelan,
Colombian.
What about tamales?
Tamales, yes, we do have tamales.
Yeah,
so we have our
ones.
own kind of version too. But those are amazing. Like you can get chicken, beef, like pork, whatever you want.
So do you have any advice to give out to people who are interested in starting their own business or pursuing something where there's a large unknown that might hold them back?
Give it a chance. Like don't be afraid to take risks, because again, you don't know where that's going to lead you or what doors that will open. For me, the prospect of being able to explore more of Canada, like all I ever knew was like the west of Canada, right? Like Alberta and BC. And then I'm like, man, let's go see what Ontario's doing, what's happening in Ontario. So like, I wouldn't have been able to make some friends here and meet some wonderful people. So like, man, don't be afraid to take risks, and if you're gonna jump into something, dive head first, and understand like, yeah, it's gonna be hard work. There's probably gonna be some struggles and some hard times, but man, like all that is knowledge. It's experience, right? And you could take that to your future. Like you could even pass that knowledge on to other people. Like there's so much that's you'll gain from that, and you'll learn from. So like, definitely don't be afraid to take risks, right? Like I took a lot of risks and I had a lot of failures, a lot of bumps on the road, but again, I think in the end that made me stronger, right? And the fact that I know like, man, I still want to run my own business, right? So that to me is like, those experiences are things that I'll never forget.
So it confirmed it more than it deterred you.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Like it just shows that, hey, I want to do this, and I could do anything if I put my mind to it, right?
So do you have any resources, or do you have any social media that you'd like people to follow you on?
So I'm not super big on social media.
Yeah.
I do have an Instagram, but it's more like
a private.
Yeah, it's more private, but like I don't really post a lot of pictures of myself. It's
Mhm.
more about like things that I see, like mostly about like nature or something, like whether it's like a nice sunset or like being out in the fields or mountains or whatever.
Any favorite pages that you follow?
Actually, if there's one person that I would like to give a shout out to is my boy. He's in Vancouver. He's actually working to be a inspirational speaker, and this guy, man, like this guy to me is like one of my biggest inspirations, because like we grew up like in the hood, and like I've known this guy for like forever, and I seen him at his lowest point, and to see him now, and he's like the happiest he's ever been. He's like the best condition, like physically, mentally, and like now he's making these big moves, all these things that he was talking about that he wanted to do, and now he's doing it. So go check this guy out. His name's Lex Rockwell, LEXXROCKWELL. He'll be launching like a YouTube channel. He'll have his Instagram. He's also doing photography, so he's got like a lot of nice pictures, but like also with like a lot of inspirational stuff that he talks about, and even just like some of the struggles that he's dealt with. But go check it out. And then he's also gonna have a kind of like a podcast with these three other guys, and it's just talking about like just random stuff. But yeah, definitely if you follow him on there, you'll be able to see what the link is. I can't find it right now, but yeah, check him out. That guy's my boy. He's doing big things. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram, notable_1, NOTABLE_ONE.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of The Collective Journey. If you or somebody you know would like to be on the show, hit us up on any of our social media. We are Collective Journey on Facebook. We are Collective Journey on YouTube. We are Collective_Journey on Instagram. And always remember, this is not just my adventure, but it's yours as well. This is our collective journey.